and we're live. Welcome to You're Worth It podcast.
Welcome to my podcast, guys. On our podcast today is my guest, Brad, my husband.
So this is episode 5.
Wow. But it's only episode 2 of our top 10, our new series where we go over top 10, whatever we want.
Yeah. So we started with top 10 reasons to be an influencer last week. So now we have to do the not top 10.
Yes, Brad technically is saying this is bottom 10, but it is the top 10 reasons to not be an influencer. Okay. So if you missed last episode, go back and listen or watch. You can watch on YouTube. You can listen on a podcast, of course.
Apparently you can watch it on Spotify too.
Huh. Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. It's a new feature.
Well, before we jump right in, do you have anything new to say to anybody?
Oh, are we supposed to talk about our life for a couple minutes?
How's your day going?
Yeah, today's pretty good,
Nice.
Yeah. How was your workout?
I saw you got lunch. That's a big deal. I feel like, remember the days when you forgot to eat pretty much every day?
Yeah. Mondays and Tuesdays, I tend to be able to eat lunch, and Fridays.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah. I'm eating lunch 4 or 5 times a week now, so.
I feel like that's a way that we should just gauge how our life is going,
I should also judge it by water intake though. So
yeah, but you've never really been good about that.
That's not true. When I worked my corporate job, I was really good at it. So
those 9-to-5s, working for the man does have his perks. I pretty much died in my CrossFit workout today. Normally I just go lift at the Globo gym. And, I just wasn't feeling that lately. I haven't been feeling that at all. And I think that you should ride those waves a little bit if you're, listening to this and feel a little bit unmotivated to do your normal thing. Maybe try something new. So today, instead of the Globo gym, I went to CrossFit and I underestimated the workout. It was a partner WOD. And
Was your partner good?
So I had to go in a triplet. And So
you had 3 partners, or you were the third
partner?
partner?
So we just swapped. So I was just opposite of the 2 of them. But I RX plussed it, which is cool because I'm trying to push myself. So it was rowing, did that fine. But then instead of box jumps at a normal height, I went taller. And then instead of regular push-ups, I did ring push-ups. So
wow.
Yeah, I think that
you're an animal.
Something I'm trying to do.
You can still look around whenever you're talking, right?
I know, but I'm trying to keep my mouth in the same spot.
Just look, you turn your head and you can keep your mouth in the same spot. See?
Yeah,
it's okay.
I know.
Okay. I'm just making sure you know. Okay.
I'll try to do that.
Okay. You look so stiff.
I'm a robot. And that leads me into my, the list. Okay.
So Aubrie and I, just so you know, we sit down 5 minutes before the podcast
really
and we go
guys.
Okay, let's make this list. So sometimes some of them can seem redundant, but they're not really. They're different, maybe slightly. So,
and these are just ours too. So this is not we Googled it. Yeah. This is just us.
This is our personal,
reasons.
our
okay?
personal.
So number 1 on our list, not however number 1 for each of us. So we actually have different number 1s. What's our top reason to not be an influencer?
So we're not doing that one yet.
No,
right?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, don't panic.
Oh no, I got scared for a second.
We are saving those 2 for last. But the first one on my list is expectations and demand from your followers. So this looks like a lot of different things. So all I can think of in my head is this little capuchin monkey. And he's just dancing, and the audience is just dance, monkey, dance. And he's just so fatigued and so tired, and he's okay, I'll just keep dancing.
And to put that in practical terms, it's when people will message me and they'll be do a dumbbell only shoulder workout. And I'm I don't do a dumbbell only shoulder workout. So you're asking me to do something I don't normally do. And it's things like that, I think is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Or just, they just, it's the expectation to just keep posting every day, keep in everybody's eyes, keep relevant.
If you're off of social media for a couple of days, people are where are you? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that maybe is a little bit made up in your head, that pressure. But yeah, I think especially when we first started, it was hey, where's your workout today? Why don't you post? So nowadays, not so much like that, but I do think that we've gone through times where it's they just expect you to answer their DM or expect you to respond to them or respond to my comment or post just for them.
Also in that, I will say it's sometimes the questions that I get asked, people are why are you so snarky in your reply? And it's because I literally just Googled it for you. Like, I sometimes feel like I get treated like I'm Google or Ask Jeeves back in the day, you know? And like someone's like, it's Ask Brad. Like literally, I remember the first time I hung out with Nick Bear, and you know, he had a big social media following and we did not. And I remember just like reading some of his DMs because he was like, look at this. And someone asked him like, hey, how tall is Mount Washington? And I remember thinking like, there's no way someone would really ask you that. And yeah, they did. They were really asking that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why don't you just Google it? And I realize that a lot of it comes down to someone may Google it or not know what to Google to get the answer they're looking for. Or they Google it and they don't know what's right and what's wrong. And like,
yeah, maybe
like
they
that.
trust you a little bit more. So,
But in general, like a lot of times when someone asks me something, I just Google it and then give them what Google told me.
you know, as we sit here going through the first item here on our list, I'm like, I need to preface this whole conversation. I enjoy what I do, okay? I do enjoy it. But if I was like talking to my niece or talking to, you know, somebody that I love and care about and they said they wanted to be an influencer, like I would give them what I said last week, which is, hey, here's some really great reasons to be an influencer, but here are some of the negatives and downsides.
Yeah, this is our pros and cons list. Yeah. And someone today asked me, was something worth it? And I was like, it's really hard for me to tell you if something's worth it. You have to decide if something's worth it. Like that's up to you. Like I can tell you that I think it's worth it for me, but you know, everyone has different things. So like some of these things on our reasons not to be an influencer may be deal breakers for you. Be like, nope, couldn't do it because of this reason, right? So this is just being transparent, I guess, about everything. Like, yeah, there's obviously some really great things that come along with being an influencer, but there's some negative things as well. And so we're just sharing some of those negative things.
In number 2.
Which is also really hard because I told Aubrie sometimes it can come off as like you're being negative and we're not. We're just sharing. So,
yeah.
Sorry.
We're just sharing.
Yeah.
All right. So number 2 I have on the list is something that I came up with, and I think Brad just agreed with it. I don't see it as really a career or lifelong. I think everybody has their window of time to create their own success. I think it is really great if an influencer can create their own brand, create their own business. Obviously, that is what we have done with Fat and Weird Cookie, with Memories Over Macros coaching. And I do see those as more, let's say, lifelong careers that social media feeds into. But yeah, I think influencing alone, relying on brand deals and, you know, just, you know, your success or your fame. Yeah, I don't think that's long term.
Yeah, we both view it as like everyone has like a window of opportunity or time, you know, and I don't think that social media has been around long enough to like see the life cycle, if you will, of an influencer.
Yeah.
But I mean, I
there's
think
no like 80-year-old or like 70-year-old on, you know, Instagram
that's been doing it for like 40, 50 years, right? Yeah. It's so new that you don't really know. But I think you can already see as the rise of TikTok, so comes the fall of Instagram, or maybe they're going to pivot or what they're going to do. But in general, it seems like Instagram has lost a lot of its appeal. It's having to split time with TikTok. And I think that the same thing could be said about things like Netflix. I mean, Netflix is losing money. It is doing terrible. But Netflix was the first, like kind of like Instagram was the first.
Is it really doing terrible?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
just because there's so many other ones.
They've lost so many subscribers because they keep raising their price. And then there's other things out there now. They don't offer live TV, so people can get Hulu and live TV and like all that stuff all at once. Yeah. And it was the only one. It was just Netflix.
Yeah, it was actually, I remember thinking, man, this is a weird concept. Like what?
Right. And then you have like, you know, now you have Peacock TV and like all of Disney Plus, and you
Paramount
have Hulu
TV.
and you have YouTube TV and you have all these other things. So they're not the only one now. So people have their one, HBO Max, like, you know what I mean? There's so much more out there. So I think that, you know, that just like with that, you know, it used to be, you know, YouTube or Instagram, and now there's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, you know, Facebook. I mean, there are people that have huge followings on Facebook that do really well just on Facebook, you know? And so I think there's just so many other platforms out there, and there's more people trying to do it, that it just is a lot. So
yeah,
more diverse.
That is a reason that I don't think anybody should be an influencer or count on it long term. So if you want to be an influencer, that's great. Just don't rely on it past like 5 years in my mind, unless you end up on some TV show.
I said that I think the average influencer lifespan is 5 to 10 years. And it depends. If you were like an 18-year-old or 16-year-old that got into it, I think you could do it all the way to, I think you could do it from 16 to 26 easily. But I think that soon after that, it's going to change. It's just naturally people in their 30s aren't on social media as much. I don't know if that will change like as younger people continue on, or if they will also have families and slowly just spend less time on social media. But yeah.
Which brings me into my next one. If you have a niche as a 16-year-old, you start on social media in this certain niche and you kind of rabbit hole yourself, which honestly, that's what most people do. They rabbit hole themselves into being comedy-based.
You kind of have to do that. You have to do it to grow on social media. You have to be about something.
Fitness, food, are you restaurants? Like there's so many niches, but I would say that a reason not to be an influencer is it's really hard to change out of that and grow out of that. So an example would be like for us, we started in fitness and macros and, our fitness journey. And that was about like the first 2 years, I would say. Then we started bringing in travel and our companies and just our life. And now we rolled into parenthood, which is a whole new ball game. And it hasn't necessarily like rolled over that well on social media.
Yeah, because a lot of people that followed you in the beginning for workouts aren't seeing as much workouts, so they're not engaging with your stuff. Or, kind of like on TikTok, there's people I follow that I don't ever see any of their posts because I don't like commonly engage with the content that they're posting. So I have to like literally go to their profile if I want to see something. So, because at the end of the day, the algorithm is trying to keep you on there. It doesn't care how it is doing it. It just wants you to stay on the app. So, yeah, and I would say that like, if you're a 16-year-old that started out with prank videos, it's okay because you're 16 and people are like, oh, he's immature. It's funny. He's a young kid.
Can you imagine though? Like,
but if you're a 30-year-old doing prank videos, unless you're like what are those 4 guys, the impractical jokers or whatever. Yeah. Unless you're like that, then you're probably not going to make it, So that's kind of how I feel about it. There's a lot of people I know that started out as certain things and now they're 5 years in and their lives have changed and they're trying to pivot. And it's just harder to do. So
I feel like comedy is a good one, though, to at least keep going. Everybody can be funny. 16-year-olds can be funny. 26-year-olds
can
be funny.
Yeah, but the humor has to change a lot. Right? Like as a 16-year-old, the funniness is like doing stupid things and everyone just laughing at you because you're 16. But if you do those same funny things when you're like 26, people are like, you're an idiot. So
that's true. And your audience is a little bit different, too. Like your audience changes. So the next one, just randomly gonna, talk about the next one, negativity. You get a lot of negativity. It's not all sunshine and rainbows and butterflies. And I think if you don't have thick skin or build thick skin over time like we have, then it will really bother you.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just about you receiving negativity. I think it's also about sometimes you can also get into like a negative mindset because you are friends with maybe other influencers and you feel like they're doing better than you and you don't know why. It's this kind of like game where you kind of are like, wait, we started at the same time, but now they've got more followers. We share the similar content. Why, what's going on? So I think
you'll never really know. Like, I don't think that you can't just like sit on your Instagram and say like, hey guys, like, why do you think that my videos aren't getting as many views or likes as this video? Because whoever's watching your stories or your posts and stuff are people that enjoy your content. So like, you'll never know why someone left your page. You'll never know, in my opinion. Most people would say the reason that people left your page is because they hate me, but so I don't think that that's true, but I think like as my content has changed, people are like, I don't really find it valuable anymore. And I can't relate to your mom stuff. Yeah. So, which in my opinion though, rolls us into perception, the negativity, right? And it's because sometimes that negativity is brought on by people's perception of you. So they only see a small portion of your life. So they kind of like create,
They fill in the blanks, you know, like at the end of the day, if you're reading a book and there was a bunch of words missing from the book, your mind is going to try to fill in those blanks to make the book make sense. It's kind of like those games where it tells you like put in a verb here and put in a whatever there.
What is that called?
And then at the end of it, they'll all read a story and everyone's story is completely different. I think that's how influencers' lives are, where people fill in those blanks and then they create a perception about that person based on how they filled in those blanks. And sometimes, a lot of times, that perception isn't reality.
Well, I just think about it with this perspective. So if you just take a look at like stories and story posting on Instagram, I don't know how many minutes are in a day, but story slides are like 15 seconds, right?
Yeah, they are.
And I post maybe like, let's just say I posted like 20 of those.
Just so you know, there is 1,440 minutes in a day.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
if you
Matt.
posted 20 stories, that is 5 minutes.
Okay, so you saw 5 minutes of my day. Now, within those 5 minutes, if 10 of those posts showed Brad in the background, always on his phone, you would just assume that Brad is just always on his phone, right? But he's not. So I think about that. Like, you're really seeing these little slices. And so whatever you're perceiving, like, it's probably not true, which actually brings me into the next point.
Wait, hold on. I want to talk about that.
My bad.
So if you take how many minutes there are in a day and divide it by 2, just to give you 12 hours of like sharing social media. So like you say, the other 12 is like, I'm watching movies, I'm sleeping, unwinding, like nothing going on, right? If you share 5 minutes, okay, of 12 hours, you've shared 0.7% of your day.
Dang, not even 1%.
Yeah. So just to put that in perspective, you literally shared 0.7 with 20 stories, which I would argue that in general, I probably have like less than 10 stories, and you've shared less than 1% of your entire day. That's
wild.
And then everyone else fills in that 99% based on what they saw of that less than 1%. So
that is crazy. But that kind of brings me into the next point, which is you are really pressured to only show like highlight reels. I think that we've actually been pretty good about this, but I think in general, there is probably a pressure to only show what is successful and what is happy, what is positive in your life, what's going well, because to be vulnerable about the hardships in your life, that's really tough. And it's opening up your life for criticism from others. So
yeah, because a lot of people would be like, well, I wouldn't have run my business this way. I wouldn't have made the decisions you made. That's why you're not doing well. So because you are, out in front of everybody, that also, you only want to show the best of the best because you don't want people to criticize you for the decisions you've made or things like that, because at the end of the day, anyone and everyone's going to do things differently than what you would have done. So, which kind of rolls us into the next one, which is like lack of privacy. You only show the highlights because you don't want to be criticized for that, but you also have a lack of privacy. For example, if there's a topic that we don't want to talk about that I feel like, people think they deserve for us to talk about because we've been so open about our lives. So let's just go right into some things like Gabby and Wade. Like, we get asked so much about Gabby and Wade, and we've actually addressed it before. Like they went
multiple
off
times.
They went off. They wanted to start their own companies. They wanted to do their own thing. Like, more power to them. Like, but at the end of the day, like, if you don't live next to us anymore or live with us and you don't work with us anymore, of course, you're just not going to be around on our social media nearly as much anymore. I don't hate them. I don't, wish anything negative upon them, but like, we just don't cross paths nearly as much when you're not near us as much, To be honest with you, I leave here to go to the gym, and that's about all, unless Aubrie and I are taking Letty to do something fun. Like, we're not really like out and about, like going to Shell Island with all of them and hanging out because we have a toddler. Like, I can't go hang out at the beach for 10 hours, and I don't go out drinking at night. Like, I just don't, that's not the stuff I do. So if you notice, like when we were hanging out with them all the time, it would be at work or it would be like because they're next door. Because other than that, like, Aubrie and I don't have this similar lifestyle as them. So it's kind of like if you had a drinking buddy and you quit drinking, you probably wouldn't see your drinking buddy nearly as much. And that's kind of, an analogy to the situation, but it's this lack of privacy that people feel like, you know, you need to tell them everything. You know, another example, when Amanda went through her divorce, people wanted to know why it happened, who did what, whose fault was it, what's going on, like all this information, because they've felt like they've been a part of this journey. And so it's like this really hard boundary to set, because people get upset that you set that boundary, but it's healthy to have boundaries when it comes to that kind of stuff.
All I'm thinking about is all those girls that are like posting their bikini photos and showing their butt. Like, I just think that's such a, I don't know. I feel like that's a private thing, and it lasts forever. Like those pictures are up there forever. Anyway, that's all people's. That's people's choices on privacy. Part of it is like your choice, right? It's your choice to be however private you want, and yeah.
But that also means that you should be able to decide to be private on things that you were maybe not private before. Like, right, if one of those girls decided to get married and have a kid and stop posting those photos, like, do you think that her followers should be like, you need to keep posting those photos, right? They should either find someone else to get those photos from, or be respectful that her life has changed, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where it comes in, is that people don't respect that boundary that you're trying to set. Like, I know I used to do this, however, I don't think it's healthy and I don't want to do it anymore. And so that's the hard part, is people a lot of times feel like you owe them that stuff.
Speaking of owing you something, that's a really good transition into the next one, which after this one, we're going to name our number ones. Okay. So this is like number 8.
Yeah.
All we have down is social issues, but what we mean by that is like people expect you to share your views on politics and social issues. And I think most of the time it is truly all about wanting to know your stance and your viewpoint on something so they can judge you. And
see if it aligns with theirs.
I'm confident in saying that, because we did that whole like anonymous questions thing on stories, and there were several people saying like, why don't you speak up about women issues, like politics, racial issues, that kind of thing. But then the icing on the cake came in. There was somebody that said like, you not sharing, it just really makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if you're, pro-Trump or pro-life or pro-choice, whatever it is. And it just really makes me wonder. And I think that's what it is for people. It's like, well, we don't know how you feel. And so we want to know, why don't you stand up for it? But what they really mean is like, let me know how you, like what you think, what your stance is, so I can just judge you.
So I can judge you and decide if I want to follow you.
You can decide if you're a good person or not. Like,
right. At the end of the day, like when I follow someone for workout tips, or if I followed someone that shared recipes, I'm here for your recipes. Like, I realize that you're maybe supporting someone that won't share the same viewpoints as you, but at the end of the day, like, you provide value to my life by providing recipes. I utilize those recipes. Thank you very much. That's it. I don't know. It's a really hard thing for me, is because it's like, maybe I'm not educated on the issue. Maybe, and a lot of people be like, well, it's privilege that you can just not talk about something because it doesn't affect you. Well, you know what? We literally every single person is born into privilege in some shape or form, period. If you were born into America, you're born into privilege that you were not born into a communist country. You were born into privilege that maybe you have both parents. You're born into privilege that you have one parent if you don't have both parents. You're born into privilege that you had foster care because there's people that live on the street. There's some kind of privilege. If you really dissect everything, everyone has some sort of privilege. Yeah, there's people that have more privilege than other people, but like there is no fair in life. There's no one that's standing there and going, okay, this is fair, this is fair, this is fair. Because at the end of the day, everyone has different definitions of fair. Everyone. I was talking to my dad about this. I said, what you think is fair is different from what Aubrie thinks is fair, is different from what I think is fair. So there is no, whoever's holding the measuring stick is the one that's going to tell you what's fair and what's not. And if you hand that measuring stick off to another person, they have a completely definition of fair. So at the end of the day, you have to realize like no one gets to decide what's fair, because everyone has different definitions of what fair is. So
preach.
Yeah, no, that was like a tangent. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. But let us know what your number one is. What is your number one, Brad? Number one reason to not be an influencer.
Mine is that you're not viewed as a real person anymore. Like the way that people talk about you, you're like a thing. The way they talk to you, the DMs that I've gotten sometimes are just like so crass.
Something that,
like I would never
say it to your face,
It's not even that. I would just I don't think they would ever say it to anyone, period.
Out loud.
Yeah. But it's so easy to say on the internet to someone that's like not there. Also just the Reddit forums, the way people talk about you, the slanderous things that people say, like the things that just aren't true.
Yeah. I mean, you're just open. When you're on social media and you have a following, you are opening yourself up to criticism, lies, things that, and you have to know your truth and you have to stand by that.
The way I talk about it is like Aubrie and I will watch a TV show, like say Married at First Sight, and we'll be like, can you believe this person? They're crazy. Can you believe what this girl is doing? Can you believe the argument they're having? And at the end of the day, like that's not going to get to those people. So it's not going to hurt their feelings. But if I went on the internet and went on a forum and I said, so-and-so from this show is a bad person, like like that can get back to them. And that's a hateful thing. So I think when you take it from the context of having an open conversation to your significant other, like kind of like either joking or making light of like what's going on, it's a little bit different than when you decide to take it to the internet for everyone to see. It's again, the lack of privacy, this kind of rolls into is like the people will judge you based on everything they see. And they see, like we said, literally less than 1% of your life. So.
Amen. My number one is this kind of falls into like the career type thing. I think that I'm the type that really likes certainty, and I would say that relying on a platform can be pretty volatile at times and uncertain. So yeah, it shouldn't be seen as like a lifelong career, of course, but there's some volatility in it, especially like if your income relies on it. Honestly, like Instagram could disappear tomorrow, or let's say like my account could be blocked or, lost or hacked or whatever tomorrow. And that would be a big deal. And I don't like relying on that necessarily. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say is that you like Instagram could go away tomorrow. TikTok could go away tomorrow. YouTube could go away tomorrow. And that's kind of like your market. And so you would lose out on all of that ability to reach those people, communicate with those people, things like that. So it's like, it's when it's on the internet, it's a lot, you rely on the other people,
Yeah, I would highly encourage people to still invest time and money into like educating themselves. So like I obviously have a master's degree. I got that before I became an influencer, and Brad has an engineering degree. And so it's like, I would still be pursuing those types of things, especially if you're young and want to become an influencer of some sort, because it's going to be important long term. You're going to have to utilize that at some point. Yeah.
And I also wanted to do some more math for you.
Unless you're making bank.
If you had a 20-minute YouTube video, right, and it was on one day, and you assume that same 720, minutes for a 12-hour period, that's literally it's under 3% of your day. So even if you watch someone's YouTube video that was 20 minutes long, that's only 3% of their day.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just feel like you're so devoid of like tons of interactions, things that could have upset you before the camera turned on. And maybe they're like, oh man, Brad was in a bad mood. It's like, maybe you found out something that was like, put you in a bad mood, obviously, you can try to turn it on for the camera if you will. But yeah, it's just like, I feel like, people literally are only looking through like a peephole, a really small peephole. And then they kind of draw all those conclusions. So yeah, that's the hardest part for me.
Well, guys, that's it for our top 10. But I do want to end this saying that we are super thankful for you guys. If you're listening to this, super thankful for you for supporting us on our social media platforms. I mean, there were people that messaged last night on that anonymous messages thing saying they followed me for like 6 years. You know how much that means to me? Like it's a big deal to just have you guys following along. So Although these are reasons not to be an influencer.
But yeah, you just have to weigh them out, right? If you're one of those people that's like, listen, I can't take that kind of criticism. If someone made a Reddit thread about me, it would be the end of the world. Honestly, I probably would have been that way when we first started too. You just kind of learned that like those things are not, are they a big deal? Yeah, maybe if you really did something wrong, but a lot of that stuff that I read about me online just isn't true. So like, if it's not true, then it can't really affect you. Like if I walked up to you and said, man, you're the shortest person I've ever seen, and there were like other short people shorter than you all around you, you'd be like, do you know what short means? Like I'm not the shortest. There's people that are shorter. So like it shouldn't hurt your feelings, right? Just like if someone walked up to you and said, wow, and they didn't know you at all. They're like, wow, you're the smartest person I've ever seen in my entire life. You're like Einstein, and like you didn't do anything to deserve that. You'd be like, okay, thanks. Like I don't really know why you're saying that to me. So the same thing applies now when I read these Reddit threads. I'm like, yeah, that's really funny because that's not true.
Yeah, you have to know your truth.
Obviously, I would love to defend myself, but at the same time, it's just like it's not even worth it. It's not because like no matter what I say, it's going to come off the wrong way. So.
Yeah, and you just can't waste time doing it.
And my friends, the friends that we have, they love us. So
yeah, you can't.
People that actually know us.
You can't let it define you. You have to know and stand by like your truth and what you know to be true about yourself. So.
Do you know what your favorite actor said?
Who? Robert Downey Jr.?
No, Keanu Reeves.
Oh my gosh, I hate Keanu Reeves.
Babe, Keanu Reeves is a really great guy.
Okay, I dislike Keanu Reeves as an actor, but as a human, I think he's great.
Yeah, he said, if you don't have my phone number, then you don't get to say, like, it doesn't matter what you have to say about me because you don't know me well enough.
Dang.
And then that was his whole point. Like, if you don't know me well enough to have my cell phone number, like my personal phone number, then you don't know me well enough to say anything bad about me.
Amen.
So I always thought that was a really great quote that he had.
I love it.
Do you?
Yeah.
You like Keanu Reeves though?
No.
Why don't you think he's a good actor though? Constantine, the Matrix trilogy, really John example. Wick.
So in John Wick, his lines for that entire movie did not exceed 5 words ever. And I think that's a good example of why they don't trust him to actually be an actor.
Do you know he does all his own stunts and he did all the own shooting and everything?
But that's like, I know. I'm not saying he's bad at that. I'm just saying like as an actor, like his believability sucks.
I believe him. I think he's a great John Wick. Whenever his wife died and then the dog died, or they took the dog, sorry.
That was really sad.
I was like, yeah, it made me cry.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I hate when dogs die in movies. I Am Legend.
Oh, the worst.
Anyway.
My dog Skip, the worst.
Well,
all right.
We did it in under 35 minutes.
Good job. All right. So next week, we don't really know what we're doing next week for top 10.
No, tell me. I want to know.
Something about marriage, probably.
Oh, okay.
Top 10 reasons to download Tinder right now.
Top 10 reasons to have a baby.
Sure.
We'll do something on marriage or babies or something, because I think the week after that we may be on a trip.
I can't believe you're saying that right now. I love you forever.
That's weird. Okay.
All right, that's it, guys. Thank you for listening. And our last little line.
You're worth it.